Good morning, students. Now we are going to see the topic is aggregate function. So aggregate function greatly enhance the power of the SQL statements, and these aggregate function takes an entire column of data as it is arguments and produces. Then this aggregate functions is the best power tool of the SQL statement. If the user want to summarize the data from the tables, they used these aggregate functions, and the aggregate function also known as the column function or row function because it retrieved the data from the column and row. So these are called as a column function or a row function, and this SQL aggregate function group by having class the select statement. If the user want to retrieve some data from the table, they used the select class option command. If the user want to create an aggregate function, they must use the select class function. And the user want to summarize the column or summarize the data in a single value, they use some aggregate function. So here the aggregate functions are described in 6 types function. So now we are going to see what are that. So the aggregate function is count function, count star function, sum function, average function, maximized function, and minimized function. So if the user want to use the aggregate functions, they follow some protocols. What are that? Because the aggregate function is the very powerful and most user friendly tools, and these are used for improve the data retrieval the power considerably. So here we follow some rules. Then the user wish to use the sum and average functions, sum and average arguments, they must be declared the numeric data type, because the sum function and average functions are basically followed by in a numeric data type. So the user must declare the value in a numeric manner. If the user using the minimize and maximize with string data, because it compared the string at depend on the character set. Then the special function, so the special case count star function argument may be proceed by the key values. Then if the user want to eliminate the duplicate duplicate row mean the redundant data. If the user stored some data and manage their data, they want to remove the redundant data, that means repeated data. Those repeated data are known as duplicate data or duplicate row. So if they want to eliminate the duplicate rows, they must declare the distinct function. Then the argument cannot involve any aggregate function. It refers to the table expression. For example, if the user used SQL, in SQL select, average, minimize, quality, as average is illegal because both are two functions are couldn't placed here the aggregate function. If the user want to get some data from the table, they must follow any one of the aggregate function in a time manner. Then now we are described the what are the functions are placed the aggregate function. So first one is count function. So count function is used for a count the number of values in a column. If the manager wish to know how many employees are working in their department, they used the count star function. Count function mean it calculates a count of the column value, right? So if the user want to the column value, they use the count function. So what is the difference between the count function and the count star function? So count function is used to count the number of values in a column, but count star function is used to count the number of rows of the query result. So these are the mainly difference between the count and the count star function. Now we are going to see the average function. So average function is used for average the data, average the values in a column. So if they want to use the get average data from table, they may use the select average employee salary from employee data. Then we go to see the sum function. Sum function is used to find the sum of values in a column. How many employees, how much salaries are produced to the, then average function. So average function is used to find the average of the values in a column. If the user want to get average value from the column value, they used the average function. The queries like select average employee salary from employee. Then we are going to see the next function is sum function. So sum function is also used to find the sum of the values in a column. How many values are placed here, we may store or add to the values for a sum functions. Then the maximum and minimized function. So maximum function is used to find the maximum value in a column, and minimum function is used for finding the minimum value for in a column. So these are the mainly used for in a aggregate functions.